Now I'm thrilled to introduce our speakers for the evening. So please help me in welcoming on stage David Freund, the Chief Leadership Officer with Macne, Robert Andrews, Chairman of the Board of Morse Manufacturing, and Nathan Andrews, President of Morse Manufacturing. We're looking forward to an engaging conversation on legacies in manufacturing with these three gentlemen, who we all are fortunate to know as Dave, Bob, and Nate. So please join me.
Thank you, Randy, for a great presentation. You know, the only thing that I would differ with a little bit with Randy is I think I have the best job in the world because I get to work with the great Macne staff and I get to have conversations with good friends like Nate and Bob. How about another round of applause for Nate and Bob from Morse Manufacturing? I'm thrilled that we get to have this conversation, and I think the best place for us to start is to talk about what is Morse Manufacturing and how long have you been around and how did you last so long?
You want to take this?
Well, I'm the oldest. I guess I should.
You remember the most.
Pardon?
You remember the most of the history.
I remember. Hopefully I haven't forgotten it all. Morse Manufacturing began in 1923. It began with an individual named Mott Morse. It started, and it was a metal fabricating company, and it started down where the rescue mission is, down in Syracuse on Dickerson Street. And my father became involved in about 1945 and ultimately purchased the company in 1948. And then due to the city doing reconstruction in the area, he was forced into having to move the facility, and we then moved in 1953 to the East Syracuse facility, where we just moved from this past Friday. We specialized in drum and barrel handling equipment and developed that line in the earlier days when my father directed it towards a specific product rather than just doing the type of the industrial fabrication that he was doing. And that's how we got started, and there we go from there.
So, 96 years. Did I get that right? Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
96 years,
We're
wow.
closing in. We're going to catch up to Macne someday.
You are?
Hopefully
Well,
not.
Hopefully not. Hopefully Macne keeps going. So in 96 years, so we started out as a steel fabricating shop. You relocated to East Syracuse, right down you used to be neighbors of us when I was at Selflock, right down the street. Must be East Syracuse was doing some economic development work or something back in the 50s. Any transitions that the company had to go through? I mean, how do you exist for 96 years and stay a viable, profitable business?
You know, transitions are always a part of it, and you know, I'll say, David, my father, and I talked a lot about this, and it was really enlightening to me hearing some of the history. But Morris certainly went through quite a few transitions. There was a transition very early on when my grandfather first got involved to get in the market of drum handling equipment. Mm-hmm. There was not products anywhere on the market for drum handling equipment, and he single-handedly invented a product category.
Wow.
And then, you know, it took us through this entire, you know, decades, and my father got involved in the company, and everything at that time, it was all mechanical leverage type products and whatnot, very industrial. And my father said, well, let's make this easier, and he got into power hydraulics and totally changed the entire product line again. Totally expanding and reinventing what drum handling is. And then we started getting some competition in the early 90s. At first it was domestic competition of ours, our patents had expired, that happens. And then we started seeing stuff coming in from offshore. At the time it was China, today who knows where it's coming from. And it really forced us to, we lost a lot of volume business, and it forced us to reinvent ourselves again, from making a couple dozen different products to being a very application-specific provider of solutions for drum handling needs throughout the world. And so, yeah, I mean, we had to literally reinvent ourselves for a third time within the realm of drum handling equipment.
Wow.
I think that's the only way you can continue to survive that kind of duration.
So what? Go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to add to what he had said, that one of the reasons that when we had this offshore competition coming on in, our pricing was one whereby we were providing benefits to our employees, and our costs were there. We were not greedy. We were definitely selling a fair product at a fair price, but we were finding this stuff coming in from offshore. They were actually marketing, showing pictures of some of our literature even, selling products to compete with us. And what are we going to do? We had to change. We were forced into changing. And so we looked within our own organization, and we looked at the products themselves, and we looked at the standards that we were meeting, and so we went beyond those. We offered the best product out there, the most safe product that was out there. We offered the quality service at a fair price. The price, we weren't the cheapest, but we definitely were the best. We went beyond the type of safety requirements that many of you have to comply with. We went beyond those. We certified, we tested, we made sure every product that went out the door complied with that. And what that ended up doing is finding quality manufacturers or users that had large safety departments and others. They spec'd Morse products because they had learned that we had nothing but the best that was out there. And so that's one of the transitions that we had done.
Great, thanks, Bob. So if I were to ask you what is a main key to the 96 years and the ability to innovate, because innovation isn't easy, what's your key to the success at Morse?
Nate and I just talked about that. It's that we care. We have cared about the employees. We have cared about the product. We've cared about the end users to make sure that it's a safe thing. And that's the real key to it right there, is that as a family business, we have really cared about the employees mostly and their families, and making sure that their needs are met in a way that the company can do this.
Do you want to add something, Nate?
You know, in a family business, third generation, where we were and continue to be involved in the New York Family Business Center, and you see very few businesses make it to a third generation.
Right.
And you know, more often than not, that you sell to an outside investor, and you know, there's a quick, easy way out, and
Sure.
you can make a lot of money
Sure.
doing that, certainly. And I don't think there's necessarily any shame in that, but you got to be passionate about what it is, and I think that is what makes it so rare to go generation after generation. I mean, you got my grandfather that invented this product category. Of course he was passionate about it. And then my father didn't sit on his laurels and kept pushing the envelope and growing this business, expansion after expansion. And of course he was passionate about it. And then, you know, to have that chances of me still being passionate about it and not just sitting back and being like, well, let's just ride this out. Or, I mean, we just completed a move. We went from a 35,000 square foot facility. The new building we just moved into is 120. We got all the latest and greatest we're thrilled. We're continuing to reinvest in the future, but you have to be passionate about it. You gotta genuinely care and love manufacturing. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
That's right. So why did you stay? Why didn't you cash out? Because you could have been extremely wealthy cashing out. There would have been people that would have bought the business. We talked about it a little bit when we were getting together. Why did you keep it? I understand you're passionate, but what was the driving reason why you kept it?
Well, I'll let my dad answer this, but I'm gonna throw in, as a kid growing up, I remember my dad saying all throughout the 80s, I swear someday we're gonna move out of New York State. But we never did.
Never did.
We're still here.
The reason we did not move out of New York State, the reason we did not sell this organization is because of the employees.
Right.
We have good employees, and there's no way that had we moved that all of those employees would have been able to come with us. There's no question about it. And we have good employees. We talked about it. We bit the bullet and we hung in there. Yes, selling the business would have to make money, the best sale would have been offshore.
Right.
And that's not the direction to go because of our distribution, because of everything else. And you've seen what's happened when businesses have been sold. Ultimately, the headquarters move, employees lose jobs, and it just affects a lot of things. And it definitely affects the economy of Central New York State, and everything around.
And I knew that was the answer you were going to give me, it was the employees, because we talked about that. And there's a story that I think, Nate, you had mentioned to me that, in getting ready to move from East Syracuse a little bit closer to the city into your new facility, there was an employee that walked to work every day.
Yeah.
And tell them how that situation was resolved. If I remember right, I think you said there was another employee that said, I'll pick him up.
Yeah, and we're just a couple weeks into the move, and they're all riding together. Different employees are picking up other ones and bringing them because they care themselves about things.
Isn't that amazing? So the employee that always walked to work didn't know how, his coworkers didn't know how he was going to get to the new facility, so his coworkers are picking him up and they're riding together. I just think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So with 3 generations, is the vision the same, or has the vision changed, or how have you kept the vision and the passion going to the 3rd generation? Is there something you can share with us that might help us?
Well, I think it has to change. I think back, how would leadership styles change? I didn't know my grandfather terribly well. He passed away in '87, but to envision him trying to manage and lead a group of millennials would I think the company would self-implode in a couple of weeks. Of course it's got to change, and you have to be willing to change yourself with it.
Bob, would you agree? Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would say that's it. Change is one of the keys. I know that's what Randy had talked about, is change. I've had to change. I've had to make a lot of changes as we've transitioned. Things are changing every single day, and I'm not sure I can keep up with it all. And it's challenging. And I want the company to grow. I did want it to go, and it is growing. And those are the things that I need to change, and we need to all change.
Thanks, Bob. Bob, you had shared something with me earlier this evening about the role that the family plays in a family-owned business. Can you share some of what you shared with me with our friends here? Just a few of our friends, just a small, intimate group here.
A few of you. Those individuals, each and every one of you that is successful out there, there's a lot of reasons for it. There's several things. And as I had said to Dave, I said, I know you're going to ask some questions, but there are a couple of things I would really like to say. I had looked at a speech I had when I was asked to be involved in the Wall of Fame. And one of the things that I looked at the speech that I had given, it said, don't cut yourself short in life. It's too short a life. And life is full of choices. You have those choices, and make sure you make the right choices. And if you make a choice for a job, make a choice for a job that you enjoy going to, you enjoy working at. And if you do that, you're going to find yourself working at 110%. There's no question. You're going to be very successful because you're doing what you like. And your success also, Nate's and mine, are very much dependent upon the fact that we've got good employees, we've worked with the employees, we've listened to the employees, and they've helped us to grow. But even more important than the employees, as you look back at your family, it's our spouse. The spouses that we have and you have worked with you in tough times. They've helped you to grow. They've let you take some of those dreams that you have and move forward with them. Nate's wife, Jill, she had to have just had a lot of questions in her mind as to, is this what we want to do or not? My wife, Alice, who's out here, when we first began and we came to work for a family business, we agreed that this would be the direction we would go. We would work together at it, and if it didn't work out and we weren't happy, we would move to something else. And those were some of the things that really has helped our organization, helped me. I know it's helped Nate, and I'm sure it has helped a lot of you as you sit around here and you think about it, because those spouses have really helped.
Thanks, Bob. I knew you wanted to say that, and I wanted to make sure that we brought that out, because that is clearly the case in my life. I saw it in my family when I was growing up with my mom and dad, and it really helps us cultivate this passion piece that we need, because it wasn't a job, it became a lifestyle for the family, that it's the business. We have to maintain this, we have to invest in it, and they were always supporting us as we did that. So let's take a little bit of a different tack now, and let's talk about manufacturing. What percentage of your sales is in New York State?
We do between 2 and 3% in New York State, not very much.
Wow. So you stay in New York State, even though, and you're selling product that's made out of steel.
Yep.
So it's not cheap to ship.
Nope.
But you make it here. What percentage of the raw materials that you buy do you know comes from here, or your components? Roughly.
I assume 80%, including taxes and payroll.
Sure.
And I mean, we definitely source some products outside of the central New York region, but the vast majority of it is all right here.
But that's the benefit of manufacturing.
Yes,
we
is.
become net wealth generators, where we build a product, we spend money, we hire people to live here, to ship product that goes across the world. What role do you think manufacturing plays in the community that might be different from, let's say, some of the service sector type of jobs? Is there something different? We had a conversation where we talked about, some of the big names that are no longer here, and the rest of us had to fill in the gaps. So what role does manufacturing play?
We're a little bit preaching to the choir here, I suppose,
We are.
in this community, or in this group. But there's a certain pride in the manufacturing community and having a manufacturing job. You're out, social event, people ask, where do you work? And when they were here, or I guess they still are, but I work at Carrier, or I work at Crucible, or I work at Fisher Guide, or some of these places. I mean, our employees, they work at Morris Manufacturing. You need to. There's a real sense of pride. We make stuff, we ship it all over the world, and we really create value. And I think that means the world to the employees as well as the organization. Beyond that, I think there's, I know you, myself, my family, there's a certain faith element that we have, but I really firmly believe that manufacturing teaches good American values. I mean, it's you got to put in a hard day's work, and you are rewarded for it. These are good paying jobs with benefits and everything else that provide for the entire family, to what my father is talking about, children and everything.
Sure. Bob, do you want to add something to that?
I was going to say, when I was beginning and getting involved in here, I was told that for every dollar we take in, it's going to have an economic effect on our community 7 times. And so that was just a oddball number that was given to me that made an awful lot of sense, because as we bring it in, we're spending it. We're spending it in all sorts of other various things. And it is manufacturing that helped this nation, helped this state become the empire state that they referred to. And unfortunately, we've lost an awful lot of those jobs, those manufacturing jobs, which I really, it hurts me to see them gone. But we are still going to continue to grow with our organization, and the economic effect is really great on communities because of manufacturing, much more than most other businesses.
Sure. Thanks, Bob. And we do have some of the shells of the old giants that were gone, but I just had the chance to see your facility last week, and it's amazing. It puts all those other facilities to shame. Employees are going to be glad to be there, happy to work there. And like Randy said, we have more jobs than we have people. So even though some of them are gone, those of you that have stayed are really doing your part. So just in closing, why Mackney? I mean, why would you, the 3rd generation on the Mackney board, why? Why would you pay dues to be part of this organization?
I'll jump in there real quick. When I first came in 1969, one of the first opportunities I had was going to a picnic that was at Mackney. I met a lot of different people. I met people from various organizations and businesses, big, small, everything in the community. And it was right from seeing and meeting these different people who I was very impressed with, to think that I'm meeting these people from large corporations and small corporations from around. And it was right from then that I liked Mackney. I always have liked Mackney, and we have used them, especially in the areas of the councils, especially in the training. Each and every one of the individuals that have grown throughout our organization in leadership positions, most of them received their training from your father.
Right.
It was just a way of coming to a source, having your people trained a similar way so that they speak and they feel about the same sort of a language, and they also are brought up with a similar kind of a culture. And that's what Morris has had. Did you want to add something, Nate?
The number one value for our organization is networking. The unique thing about the manufacturing community is generally speaking, we don't compete with each other.
Right.
And for us to attend, whether it's a training seminar or something, and to talk about challenges we're having, you can let your guard down and you can share, and people are willing to reciprocate. And it's not just at the executive level of an organization, it is at every level of the organization. I will say as well, as some of these larger manufacturers have been leaving Syracuse, or there's manufacturing still strong.
Absolutely.
It's very clear from looking out. But it's mostly small, medium-sized manufacturers. And when these large manufacturers, they could have their own advocacy departments, and they could have their own training departments, and their own this and that. And us small, medium-sized manufacturers, we don't have the resources to do that, and we rely heavily on Mackney to be able to provide those resources, whether it's advocacy, or more importantly, right now, not taking anything away from Karen and the advocacy efforts, but we're all struggling for people right now. Workforce development is a critical crisis, and we need to we need to rewrite the story of what manufacturing is. I mean, the story that Randy was just talking about, to not let it be perceived as this dirty place
Right.
where it's a menial job and you're not really going to make a lot of money. Those days are gone.
Long gone.
That is long gone, and yet that is the image of what so many
Sure.
students have, and our education system, and you know, I think we're finally getting that message out, but
Right.
it's MACNY that needs to rewrite that story. And, you know, much to this apprenticeship efforts that they're doing and PEB, that's great stuff. It needs to be told.
Amen. And what I love about it is 18 months, in 18 months, 140 some apprenticeships already in place, you know, the future workers being trained. And the neat part about manufacturing is these folks that are going to go through these apprenticeships are getting paid while they're learning. They have no tuition. And we heard about it a couple weeks ago. Starting pay for maintenance technicians, maintenance mechanics after an apprenticeship can be 70 grand a year with no debt, and they've learned their whole time through the apprenticeship. Only manufacturing can do that. And so I want to just thank the two of you. If your grandpa would be here and your dad, I'd thank him as well, but for staying in Central New York for 96 years, for not cashing in the chips, but keeping it going for other generations. Thank you so much. A round of applause for our good friends at Morse Manufacturing. And we will turn it back over to Karen.